Welcome back. So in our last tutorial we went over loops, like for loops, while loops, and do while loops. And so this time I want to go over methods. Basically what a method is it's a block of code separated away from the clutter of your code, and it basically helps you separate your logic from one another, and it also improves readability of your code. So whenever you create a class, you'll notice these awake, start, and update methods. And these are methods that Unity calls to do specific things. Like awake is a method that is called as soon as an object is brought into the scene. And then the start method is called after that for initialization of variables and whatever you want to do on the start. And then update is whenever Unity updates itself, so every single frame. You can create your own methods to help organize your code and kind of make your classes a lot more structured. So what I'm going to do is create a new method. And alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new method called just my method. So what we're going to do is type in void my method and in brackets. Alright, and we'll just have an empty method. Alright, the void is the return type of the method, so you can create methods that will return a value. They can use throughout your code, and or you can just keep it void if you don't want to return anything. Okay, so in the method we'll just say my number, we'll multiply it by 2, and then we'll log what my number is. Okay, so we'll get rid of this. Get out of there. And we will call my method. Alright, so we'll just type in my method and brackets and the semicolon. Okay, so now when we hit play, it's 0 because our number is 0. Great example. So we'll type in 5 or 50, sure. So it should log 100. See, right there. Yay! And you can call your method as many times as you want. All right, and we'll hit play again. And we'll see it multiplied by 2 multiple times. Alright, so that's fine and dandy. Now what we're going to do is have a parameter passed into my method. So let's say we don't want to multiply by 2 every single time. We want to change the number. So what we're going to do is we'll in the circular brackets we'll type int and we'll give it a name multiplier, and instead of times equals 2 we'll go times equals multiplier. Okay, and then when we call our method we're going to pass a value in these brackets, so we'll type in 4. Okay, so we'll go back into Unity and my number is 50, and since we passed in 4 it'll multiply 50 by 4 and log that out. So we should get an output of 200. Like that. Yay! Right, and let's say we wanted to return return a value instead of just manipulating my number. Let's say we wanted to set my number to whatever number was created within my method. So we'll change my method to int, since my number is an int, and we'll get rid of my number. We'll create a new variable called int new number equals 30, and then we'll go new number times equals multiplier. Alright, and since it has an int, we're going to return that value. So return new number. Alright, and now we want to set my number to whatever is returned by this. So we'll go my number equals my method, and we passed in 4. Okay, so now my number should be set to, we'll go debug.log my number. Get rid of that. Actually, no, we'll keep that. We're going to log my number before and after. Okay, so we'll go back in and we'll hit play. So before my number is set, we called it right here. My number was set to 50 in the editor, so it logged 50. And then we set my number to whatever was returned by my method. And we logged it after, and we got 120, which is 30 times 4. Okay. You can also pass multiple parameters to your function as well. So let's say we didn't want 30 to be the only number that we could choose. We'll put in another parameter. So we separate them with commas. And we'll put another int and say new number. Okay. So we'll get rid of that. We're going to multiply new number by the multiplier and return new number. Now we'll say my number is equal to my method 4, comma, and we'll put in a number, say 127, because why not? And we'll go back in and we'll hit play. And we got 508. So 4 times 127 is 508. We return that value, set it to my number, and we logged it out. Alright, pretty easy enough, right? Now next is the difference between static methods and instance methods. So what you're seeing here with void, or with awake, start, update, and my method, these are all instance methods. These methods are attached to this specific instance of this class. So my script attached to main camera, all those functions belong to that object. Right? A static method is a method that belongs to the class itself instead of the instance of it. So we'll create an example of a static method in our second script. So if we want to declare a static method and we want it to be accessible by any other class, we'll go public. That allows it to be accessible by everyone. Static, which makes it a part of the class instead of an instance. And let's say we don't want to return value, we'll just say void my static method. And let's give it some parameters. So we'll go int number, and let's go with a Boolean value. Should multiply. Okay. So we'll go with, and inside the static method, we'll go if should multiply. We'll go number times equals 50, and else we'll go number plus equals 50. And let's see here. Yeah, we'll just log the value. Debug.log log number. Alright. So now if we want to call it, we'll call it in start. Let's get rid of this. We'll go my second script dot my static method. You see it's accessible from the class instead of an instance of it. And we'll give it a number of 10 and true. And then we'll just copy and paste and hit false so we can see both outcomes. Alright. And we'll go play. And we have 560. So we multiplied it by 50 our first time around, and we added 50 the second time around. And the function was just called from the class, not an instance. If we wanted to call it from an instance, we would just go public void my instance method number bool should multiply. We'll just copy and paste all that good stuff because it's going to be the same thing. And in this case, we would need to call it from second script. So instead of my second script dot my static method, we would have to say second script dot my instance method, and we'll give it a different value so you can see a difference. And copy and paste and false. Alright, so we're going to call the static methods first and the instance methods second. Alright. And we'll hit play. And null reference exception because we did not set my second script. So our game object has my second script, so we'll drag that baby on there and we'll hit play, and it worked this time. Okay? So that's something else you need to watch out for. If the instance method or if the instance is null and you try to call a function, you'll get that null reference. Whereas with a static method, it's attached to the class itself, so you don't have to worry about not having an instance of the class to use the method. The different cases you would want to use this is so an instance method is when you want to modify a specific instance of a class. So let's say my second script, there was multiple of those in my scene and I wanted them to do something, or I wanted a specific one to do something, I would call the method on that specific instance of it. Whereas if I needed to modify everything that belonged to my second script, you could call the static method on the class itself and it'll modify every single object. Now, almost done. The last thing I want to go over is recursive methods. So a recursive method is a method that calls itself. These are good for say math, if you're trying to do a factorial, or if you need to loop through something recursively until something is found. So we will create an example here. So I'm going to just use the factorial example, easiest one to do. So what we'll do is go int my recursive method. So we're going to return an int value, and and we're going to pass an int value into it. Number, and there. So with a factorial, basically it is a number multiplied by the number below it until it hits 1. So if you had 3 factorial, it's 3 times 2 times 1. 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So in our recursive method, since we want to create a factorial, we're going to call the recursive method again, but decrease the number by 1, if that makes any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to return my recursive method number minus 1. Oh, return number times my recursive method times 1, right? Because we're trying to multiply them together. All right, and we want it to break out before the number hits 0. So if number is less than or equal to 1, we'll just return the number. All right, so that's our way out of the recursion. If it's less than or equal to 1, we'll just return the number and it won't call the function again. But if it's greater than 1, we'll call the function again with the number just minus 1. Okay, so we will go, we'll make a debug.log, and we'll go my recursive method and give it 4. Okay, so it should log what the value of 4 factorial is, which should be 24. So we'll hit play. If I did this right, it should go to 24. Alright, so it goes, basically it returns 4 times 3 times, and it goes back into the function times 2, and then goes back in again times 1, and then since it's equal to 1, it just returns 1, and then we get the multiplication of every single number up to that. Okay. Another example, we'll just put in 7 and hit play again, and it'll do 7 times 6 times 5 times 4, and give us 5040. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, like I said, recursive methods are basically just when you're doing math, or you need to recursively loop through something until everything of an instance is out, or there's multiple different reasons why you would need a recursive method. And also, it's cleaner code if you can just call your recursive method once and then have it call itself and do a huge compound function. Just if you can just do everything in one line nice and cleanly like that, I say go for it. But recursive methods also have the same issue as while loops, where if you don't do it right, you might accidentally recurse through the method an infinite amount of times and then just crash the program. So that's why we need these the kind of our version of a break statement in the recursive methods, where we just check for a condition and we return just the parameter, or return a value, instead of returning the value times the recursive method or calling the method again. Alright, so I think that's good for now. And I actually think that's good for the C# stuff for now. We've gone over the basics, and I think I'm actually going to start with the actual making the game tutorial. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go with the first-person shooter. It's kind of the easiest to jump into, and we can go over quite a bit of stuff between like raycasting and pathfinding for your AI, and collision, all that kind of stuff. So so that's it for now, and see you guys later.